Okay, all right,
Okay.
fantastic. Sorry for the delay, everybody, everyone online. We had the session before, this session got delayed, so all the sessions afterwards got delayed as well. Thank you for your patience. My name is Chris Oriet. I'm one of the two associate deans here in the Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research, and I'm really glad that we chose to stick around for this workshop. We're going to attend this workshop today because we're going to talk about something really, really important: academic integrity. Many of you know that this has been a pretty hot topic in the news recently, and we're going to talk about that in a moment too. But first, I want to just go through what we're going to actually cover in this workshop. We're going to talk about what we actually mean by academic integrity. We're going to talk about why it matters. Then we're going to go through some steps for how to avoid plagiarism. And we have a couple key tools at our disposal for avoiding plagiarism. I'll be focusing on plagiarism because that is the thing that I find students often don't realize they're doing. Okay? You know if you're cheating on an exam. You know if you're, brought something into the exam you weren't supposed to have, and you wrote it on your sleeve, and you're like, you know that you cheated, right? But students often don't understand what is meant by proper paraphrasing, proper citation, get very confused about that, and that's where they get themselves in trouble a lot of times, okay? Despite the fact that you may or may not know about these things, it's your responsibility to know about these things. So if you commit academic misconduct and you end up in an interview with me and you say, well, I just didn't know, right? I'll say, well, you had your GRSP 100 AA, and it's a responsibility to know. So you really need to make sure that you got a good handle on this stuff. Okay. So as I said, our tools for avoiding difficulties are learning how to quote properly, learning how to paraphrase properly, and to give appropriate citation to others' work. At the end, we'll have an open discussion, any questions you might have about academic integrity. Like I said, this is all over the news right now. So those of you who follow the news will know that the president of Harvard University just this week, was forced to resign her position as president when it was discovered that parts of her thesis were plagiarized. Okay, so think about that. Her thesis for dissertation would have been written probably, I don't know, decades prior, I would assume. Okay, or at least sometime many years back. And now, suddenly, she's been confronted with this. And she's lost out on what I assume is a very high-paying, lucrative, and certainly prestigious job for something that she did as a graduate student, possibly unintentionally. Okay, so the consequences can be really, really severe. And I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the consequences, but I do just really want to emphasize that academic integrity is taken very seriously here. Academic misconduct is dealt with in a very serious manner. As undergraduates, you might have thought that your primary job is to get the right answer on everything you possibly can, right? You get an exam, get the right answers. You get a short answer quiz, get the right answers. Just get it right, get it right, get it right. I want to shift that mentality. Now that you're graduate students, we prioritize something much different. Okay? We don't really care about the right answer anymore now that you're a graduate student. What we care about is originality. We want to see that you're bringing something new. You are the leaders of tomorrow. You are the big thinkers. So in graduate school, we're going to push you to be the big thinkers we know you can be, and to be original and creative and innovative, and to show that in your work. Okay, so it's not about getting the right answer. What you're learning as an adult, as a grown-up, is that there often are no right answers. Right? That things are changing all the time. What we believe about, let's say, the COVID vaccine, when it first was out, we may not believe that anymore. Okay? Because science changes, and so the answers change. And it's the same thing all over academia. It doesn't matter what area you're in. The answers change. So we have to be better than that. We have to think bigger, and we have to be creative problem solvers. And that is what we're trying to do by completing a graduate degree. Okay, so your instructors, your supervisors, anybody looking at your work wants to see originality. They do not want to find something they've already seen 15 times in other students' papers copied off of the internet. Okay, they want to see that you can think, you have something to say, you are thoughtful, that you are bringing something new into the conversation. So, especially those of you in the more social science disciplines, you often get an assignment that actually asks you, what do you think? Right? Not what is right, what is the correct answer, but what do you believe? What do you think? What's your opinion? okay, to reflect on these bigger questions, all right? I really want to emphasize that because that's where I see students often getting themselves in trouble. They get in this mindset that there is one right answer the prof is looking for, and I'm going to give her exactly that one right answer. And I'm not sure I can do that perfectly, but I know that I found that on the internet. It's the one right answer. I'm going to put the one right answer in my online exam or whatever else. Okay, it's not cool. That is not what we do as graduate students. Okay. So what do I mean by academic integrity? Well, to uphold the principles of academic integrity in your work means that you're doing your work honestly and accurately. Okay, so that you are representing yourself, your abilities in an accurate, honest, and transparent manner. I really want you to think about when you're doing your work, I want you to keep in mind that just this very fundamental thing, right? Is this me that I'm putting forward for evaluation? Is this a reflection of my thoughts, my understanding, my abilities? Okay, because that's what your instructor wants. Your instructor is giving you an assignment to test what you know and how you write and how you think and where your original ideas and opinions and thoughts are. Okay, so you need to be able to present yourself in an accurate and honest manner. You can't do that if you copy from other people and call it your own. Okay? Please give credit where credit is due and only take credit for ideas that are actually your own. It's really important in academia. I'm talking a moment about why it's important in academia to give credit and to always give credit to those who are the originators of the ideas, or at least who present the ideas that you're presenting in your work. Okay? And really at the core, academic integrity is about respect. It's about respect for the people whose work you're building upon in your own work, that you give them the correct acknowledgement, the proper acknowledgement, but also respect for the instructors and supervisors you're working with, who want to give you valuable, meaningful feedback, and you can only do that if what you present is your work and an honest reflection of what you know and what you can do. Okay, so where honesty and respect come together, that's what I think of as academic integrity. When you borrow the work of others, you use in your own work, which is perfectly fine. That's what we do as academics. We build on others' ideas. Okay, we want to bring something new to the question. We want to bring our own thoughts and opinions, but we do that often by building on what others have already done. There's nothing wrong with that. It's exactly what we should be doing. We should try to stand the known knowledge of the world. Okay, so we're building on others' ideas, but we need to give them credit for those ideas. So you have to ask yourself when you're borrowing work from others, is it clear to the reader to whom the ideas belong? Who had these ideas or these words? If you're using other people's words, if you're using other people's words or other people's ideas in your own work, it has to be clear to the reader which ideas are yours that originate with you and which ideas come from other scholars. That's the fundamental thing that you have to make clear in your papers that you submit for your classes or in your thesis or anywhere else. Never leave any doubt in the reader's mind about whose ideas you're presenting. Ask yourself, now be respectful towards the originator of those ideas. If I take somebody else's idea and bring my paper, that's fine. If I do that without saying it's not my idea, that's not good. Okay, because it's disrespectful to the person who actually had the idea. So if I'm using other people's work and I don't give them credit for it, I'm disrespecting them in a very fundamental way. I want you to think about that in terms of future you, down the road, right? You get into a job where you're writing technical reports or wherever else, you might find others using your work. Let's hope that happens, right? That others use the research and the skills and the knowledge that you bring into the world, that they use it. Wouldn't you want credit for it? If they passed it off as their own, you would feel really disrespected, right? You'd feel really bad about that. Okay, and so, as I already mentioned, we all want to make sure we're always honestly and accurately presenting our own ideas and understanding of the work that we do. And what I present for evaluation to my instructors or my supervisors needs to be an honest and accurate reflection of my current understanding, my current abilities. Okay? Otherwise, what's the point in them giving you feedback? If it's not your ideas and not your writing and not your work, there's no point. Another thing I really want you to think about think of the perspective of the instructor, supervisor, whoever. And from their perspective, they gave you this assignment or this task because they want to assess how much you know, what you think. Okay? If you present work that isn't your own, whatever grade they give you is completely meaningless. Okay, so a lot of times I'll have students will say, well, I didn't mean to plagiarize, but nothing in this paper is written by me. It's all written by ChatGPT. But I didn't mean to do that because I didn't know that I couldn't have ChatGPT write my paper for me. Yes, I hear that. Okay. And so I ask the student, I say, why should you get graduate level credit for something ChatGPT wrote? Right? Because what you brought to the equation is typing in a good prompt, which is probably just instructions for the assignment. Okay, that's not worth giving people master's degrees for or PhDs. That's not what we do. Okay, so academic integrity is about the outcome. It's not about your intent. Most people who fall into the academic misconduct trap are not bad people who are trying to deceive. Okay, they're people who misunderstand the rules or don't apply them in their work. But it doesn't matter whether you were trying to deceive or whether you were not trying to deceive. Either way, the outcome, the paper that you're presenting for marking is no good. It doesn't represent what you're capable of, what you know, what you understand in an honest and accurate way. Okay, so it doesn't make any difference whether you didn't mean to do that, right? And the penalty won't be adjusted just because you say, well, I didn't mean to plagiarize. Yeah, I did. I totally plagiarized lots, but I didn't mean to. I just didn't know how to not plagiarize. It won't matter because we still have a paper that makes no sense, right? It doesn't tell us anything about you. Okay, so why does it matter? Why do you care so much about academic integrity? Why do you have to have an hour and a half hour workshop on academic integrity? That's like almost the first thing you do in grad school. And then we carry on ahead again with the Grad Strike Plus course, right? We remind you over and over again. It matters because in academia, the way that we pay people for their ideas is not through money, it's through credit. Acknowledgement that their ideas are in fact their ideas. Okay, so we don't, if you want to borrow somebody's idea in your thesis or in one of your papers, you don't have to hand over money, right? You just have to say, this is their idea. That's how we pay for using others' ideas in academia. Okay, so we give people credit for their ideas, and we want to do that because that allows that person who had that great idea to build a reputation for themselves, and you'll want the same thing. You'll want the same thing when you start doing original research or start doing original work. At whatever point in your career that happens, if you put something out in the world and others are using it, you're going to want credit because you're not going to get money if others use your ideas. Unless you sue them, and then maybe you get money. But typically, you're going to just get credit. Okay, in academia, that's the acceptable currency. Okay, that's how we pay others for the ideas that they allow us to use in their work. You have an understanding. I really want to emphasize students get hung up on sometimes the wrong things when it comes to understanding how to give credit to others. At the end of the day, I want to see that my students give credit. If they don't quite get it right, they don't provide the right citation in the right format or whatever else, I want to see that they were intending to give credit where credit was due. And if they messed up the citation style, who cares? Okay, that's not the most important thing. Citation styles differ by different disciplines, even sometimes by different professors in terms of what they want to see. The most important thing is that you give credit, however you do that. If you don't know how to give credit, ask. Ask the professor how to give credit. Here's an example. Maybe you write computer code in your program. Maybe you borrow code from others online. You find code on GitHub. Why would you rewrite code that does exactly what you want the program to do, right? We use code from other people in our own programs all the time, but we give credit, right? So you acknowledge in your comments, right, in your code that this comes from GitHub. It's not mine, okay? Maybe in the real world you wouldn't do that, but you will certainly do that when you hand it to your professor because your professor wants to be able to see whether you can write code, what you understand about how to write code. And they can't do that if all you're doing is copying and pasting other people's code from the internet. Okay, so you have to indicate that, oh, by the way, for this one function in my code, it was written by somebody else. You can find the original here. Okay, and just put in the, and if that's not the right way to do it, It doesn't matter because what you're showing is that I'm trying to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so it's really, really important to give credit. Don't get stuck on, am I doing the formatting of it right? Whatever. Just make sure you're giving credit where credit is due. If our work isn't an honest and accurate reflection of what we currently know and understand, it's worthless, right? So if I get a piece of paper at the end that says that I have all this knowledge and all these skills, and I really don't, what was the point? Sure, I have the credentials, but then as soon as my boss asks me to do something, I can't, because I've never actually done it, even though I have a paper that says I can, right? So that master's degree diploma that you're going to get at the end of this, or PhD diploma you're going to get at the end of this, tells employers, I have a lot of skills. I can write, I can think critically, I can analyze other people's research, I know how to incorporate other people's research into my own work. I know how I have this broad skill set. I got all this from my graduate degree. Make it true. Right? If it's not actually true, you haven't written anything, ChatGPT did it all for you, you've got nothing out of it. Okay? The degree we get is worthless too. And if we don't present our work in an accurate way, the feedback we get is meaningless too. We don't get a chance to improve. We don't get the skills that we need, and we don't get to improve on what we don't know well or what we're not doing as well as we could be. We don't get to become even stronger because the feedback we get is useless, right? Let's say you have ChatGPT write a whole paragraph for you, and instructor circles that paragraph and says, this is great. This is really, very thoughtful, and I'm really proud of you for coming up with this. You didn't. It's meaningless feedback, right? Or they might say, this is terrible. And why would you ever say this? This is crazy, right? And again, you did, right? You didn't have your words, that isn't your idea. Okay, that feedback doesn't help you progress and get better. Okay, so in order to have meaningful feedback, we really need to make sure that what we present is honest and accurate. Another thing to think about, kind of like our president at Harvard, is if you're not going to act with integrity in the workplace, in university, okay, in graduate school, why would it change when you get into a job, right? Once you start letting yourself do things in a way that doesn't display integrity, it becomes easy to make that a pattern and habit and a way to get by. It is not a way to get by. Sooner or later, it will come back to haunt you. Okay, so don't be somebody who has to cheat all the time for the rest of your life. Be somebody who develops the skills while in graduate school so you can do the things that your employers are asking you to do. You can level up to better and better jobs all the time. I said I was going to focus so much on penalties, but I think it needs to be said that the penalties for active misconduct can be quite severe. Take it seriously. Okay, the penalties, I don't like keeping students out of university, but I do. Okay, so if a student is repeatedly showing that they haven't bothered to take the time to learn the rules and apply the rules, they're not going to be a student here for long. Okay, we have a special grade called XF. This is the grade you get when you commit academic misconduct. It stays in your transcript forever, and everybody who sees that grade will know exactly what it means because the legend on your transcript says awarded to those who committed academic misconduct. It's a failing grade. It counts as 0 in a calculation of your GPA. Think about what your GPA would look like if one of the 6 courses you're taking has a 0 in it. Okay, it stays in your transcript permanently. There's no way to get rid of it. It is a very bad thing to have happen, and it can also be accompanied by expulsion from university. Okay, so like for those who were in the previous session, the guy that was going to electrocute himself, the other guy said, you could die. You won't die. Your career could. Okay, if you engage in an academic misconduct. But what can happen is pretty bad. Right? To get a 0, get expelled from university. Nobody wants that. Okay, so nobody wants to get kicked out. That's not why you came here. You're spending a lot of money. You're investing a lot of your time, energy, and talent. Make it worth it. Okay? All right, this is from the graduate calendar. You'll see the whole list of things that can happen if you commit academic misconduct. Okay, I really just want to kind of focus on the last one. This penalty for an established case of plagiarism is a 0 for the paper and maybe problems with final grade effects of the course. Okay, so don't plagiarize. The rest of this workshop is going to be focused on how to get you to avoid doing that. So how do you avoid plagiarism? How do you avoid this horrible thing that we keep harping on? ChatGPT, it's evil. Don't use it. I recognize that ChatGPT is a very useful tool that has its place. But what I really, really want to hammer home to you is that there are a million tools now at our disposal that help us in various ways to produce better quality work. It's not the tools themselves that are bad. Okay, in the same way that a knife isn't bad, but can be used for bad things. Okay, so I can use a knife to kill somebody, or I can just use it to butter my bread. The use of that tool to butter my bread is okay. The use of it to kill somebody is obviously not. I want you to make a commitment to yourself right now that if you're going to use any tools at all, especially AI-powered tools, okay, any kind of generative AI, you are going to ask the instructor about it first, or your supervisor, or anybody who you're presenting your work to for evaluation. Do not use ChatGPT, wait to get caught, and then say, oh, I thought it was okay, because it won't work. All right? So you need to clarify with the instructor. You go to your instructor and say, hey, I was thinking about using ChatGPT to help me with this assignment, and here's how. Right? I was thinking about using WordQuill or Quillbot or Bard or Ginger or whatever. There's 10 million of them, and there's more every day. Okay, if you're planning to use any kind of assistive technology, and I would say even Grammarly, tell your instructor you plan to do that, ask permission, and see what they say. It'll be on their core syllabus, but you can still ask, just to be sure. Especially if you're planning to use artificial intelligence in any way, shape, or form. Here at the University of Regina, AI, ChatGPT, and other generative AI technology is by default not allowed to be used. By default. That can change if your instructor okays it. Okay, in some parts of the university, they may start, you might get an assignment that says, start by summarizing this article using ChatGPT or Deep AI or whatever. Okay, then do these other things. There you have permission to use that tool in that limited way. If you don't have that inside the instructions, you don't have that permission, you don't have permission to use AI at all. Okay, so I want to really hammer that home because the number of students have gotten themselves in trouble over the last year for misusing AI has skyrocketed in the university and even among graduate students. Undergraduates love ChatGPT, but grad students do too. Okay, and so I'm seeing a lot more than I would have expected. You can never assume that it's just okay to use generative AI. You have to check. And I would also strongly encourage you, if you are using any kind of assistive technology to help you with your writing, keep the original drafts of your work. Okay, if you're going to use some paraphrasing software to help make your sentences sound more like AI, frankly, but to make them sound better, keep the original. Then show what it looked like after so we can compare the two. And we can see, aha, you actually had the original idea and you wrote it all out in your own voice, in the way that you understood it, but then you used a tool to help polish that writing. And that might be okay. Okay, because I know you want to hand in a nice, really nicely written product. I get that. But keep the original ugly version. Okay, because that's the one that says, oh, you actually wrote this. The AI tools or whatever only help you polish to improve your own writing. But that there was something that you wrote to start with that then got improved. You need to be able to show the ugly something that you started with. Okay, so keep those drafts. This will really help you. I love this quote. I really think that you shouldn't use AI at all for lots of reasons, but I think the main thing to keep in mind is if you're using AI to write your assignments, you're not benefiting from the exercise of writing those assignments. A friend of mine, Susan Johnson, is a professor here in history, and she came up with this quote a couple of weeks ago in a meeting we were at. She said, using AI to write your assignments is like watching people work out at the gym. You can tell everyone that you spent 3 hours at the gym, but did you really spend 3 hours at the gym? Right? Same thing with, I wrote this paper. No, you did not. ChatGPT did, and you got no benefit from the exercise of writing that or getting feedback. Okay, so in order to actually benefit from the experience, you need to actually do the work. Okay. Making sure to give credit where credit is due. The attribution is there. Show one slide. All right, so how do we avoid it? We've got 3 key tools that we use to avoid plagiarism specifically. Those tools are citing properly, quoting properly, and paraphrasing. And talk about each of those in terms. I think students sometimes get very confused about these. As Gordon said, we have to give credit to people for their ideas, but we also have to give credit to people for their words. Those are different things. And if we take other people's ideas, but we put it in our own words, God give them credit for the ideas. If we take other people's words, we have to tell people that these are not our words by offsetting them in quotation marks, and then telling the reader who actually is the author of those words. Okay, so both words and ideas require a citation, not just if you quote. Even if you just take the idea and rewrite it in your own words, you still have to provide a citation to the source of the idea. It doesn't matter that it's now written in your own words. Okay, so we do this through citation by providing a citation to the original source of the idea or the words. We're going to do this whether it's ideas we're taking or whether it's the person's words we're taking. We're going to do it in a different way for those two cases, but we're still going to provide a citation every time. Okay. Your time to finish. Okay. This is being recorded, so I'll make this available somehow on our website. Hence will do it.
Yeah. Already.
All right. So.
Yeah, it is recording.
I got a little voice on there. Oh. When we take others' words, we have to quote them. Okay. So. That's different than if we take other people's ideas. When we take other people's ideas, we're paraphrasing, meaning we're taking their ideas and then writing them in our own words, expressing their ideas in our own words. But regardless of whether we're quoting or paraphrasing, we're going to provide a citation. I can't say that enough. Same thing for taking code from other sources, we're going to acknowledge the source of that code. For computer science or engineering. Okay. We're going to cite the source of that information. So let's go through quoting first. There's 4 things I want you to remember when quoting. Okay, first is that you got to put the quoted words in quotation marks. Okay, that tells the reader who's bubbling along reading your paper, your instructor, whoever, okay, this is Nancy's words, Nancy's words, Nancy's words, Nancy's words, quotation mark, not Nancy's words. Okay, as soon as they hit that quotation mark, they know that's somebody else's words. If without the quotation marks, they don't know that those words aren't yours. And we'll all assume as readers that anything that's not quotation marks was written by you and that those are your words. Okay, so it needs to be true. You follow the quote with an in-text citation. And in-text citation, I'll show you an example of one in a moment, means to provide the source right then and there beside the quote, at the end of the quote. Okay, to make it clear where that quote came from. You're going to include the page number for the quote. Now, the original source, what page can I find it on? So if it's journal articles, which page in the journal is it found on? If it's a book, what page is it found on? And you're going to list the source in your reference list at the end of your paper. Okay, so again, 4 steps, right? 4 things we have to remember. We've got to put in quotation marks. We're going to add an in-text citation. We're going to add a page number. We're going to include it in our reference list. I'm going to show you how to quote from a source using these 4 steps right now. Here is a big long thing text. Okay, this is written by a friend of mine for Penny Cook. I'm in psychology. He's a psychology professor like myself, cognitive psychology. He studies the spread of fake news, right? So he's written this paper, and this is one paragraph that I'm showing you from his paper. And I want to quote from his paper in my own. Okay, I want to quote some of his words. So let's see how we can do that. So here is a quotation from that paper. It starts off with my own words. Come on in. Starts off with my own words. Recently, researchers have called into question whether fact-checking questionable information posted on social media platforms is a feasible strategy to mitigate the spread of this information. Okay. For example, Penny Cook and Rand argue that there's no quotation marks. As soon as you see that, I am no longer pretending that these words are mine, right? Fact-checking is simply not scalable. It typically requires substantial time and effort to investigate whether a particular claim is false or misleading. Thus, many, if not most claims never get fact-checked. Okay? You know that those are not my words, and I'm not pretending otherwise. Okay, so whoever's reading this will know right away that those words correctly should be attributed to Pennycook and Rand. Okay, that they are the original authors of those words. And you'll notice here that I've done this in a couple of different ways. I've made it clear to the reader in a couple of different ways. Most importantly, the quotation marks, right? The quotation marks tell the reader these words that you're seeing between these quotation marks are not much. I've also provided a reference. That's the in-text citation that I was telling you about, right? So here I've said Pennycook and Rand 2021, that refers to an article that they published in 2021, where you can find these words. I've also added a page number. You can find exactly these words from them on page 396. Why is that important? It's important because I can quote them out of context. And so it's important for somebody to be able to go back and look at the original context that the quotation appeared in to see if I captured their beliefs accurately. Okay, to give you an example, maybe I wrote a paper where I said something like, Donald Trump is incredibly brilliant at evading criminal conviction through his lawyers, whatever else. And that's what I really wrote. But somebody thinks the first part says, Oriet thinks Donald Trump is brilliant, and they provide the quotation. Okay. Somebody should be able to look and see, like, does he really think that? I'm going to go look at the original paper where that quotation comes from and see if that's what he really meant. Okay. When they see it in the original context, they'll know that the quote was taken out of context and that I don't really believe that. Okay, so we have to give people that opportunity. We have to give readers that opportunity by telling them what page number you can find the quote on. The final piece is this, which will appear in my reference list at the end of my article. Okay, here I've got my full bibliographic citation to where you can find this research article where this quote comes from. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick check to make sure that I've done this right. Is it clear from what I've done to whom these ideas or words belong? What do you guys think? Did I get that right? Did I make it clear who those words belong to? I did. Okay, thank you. I agree. I think I'm clearly signaling that the ideas are Pennycook and Rand's and the words are Pennycook and Rand's and not mine. Am I being respectful towards these authors? And how am I being respectful towards them? Right? I provided the citation and I put that in my reference list. So I'm giving them credit, right? Which are currency in academia. So I'm not going to pay him. I'm not going to pay Gord for his words, right? But I will give him credit for his words. And I'm honestly and accurately representing what I know and am presently capable of with what I wrote. What do you think? Something we're not sure. Okay, I would say I am, because I'm not pretending that the words and the quotation marks are my own. Okay, so I'm not saying that I have that idea or that I could write that way. But the stuff that came before it, I really did write it. Okay, and so I'm accurately, honestly presenting to my instructors what I'm capable of right now. I'm showing them that I can write this. Okay, so it's because the words are my own, and I've implied that they're my own by not providing quotation marks or citations to them. The instructor can infer they're my own and be right about that. Okay. So our second tool is paraphrasing, which is a little bit different. Paraphrasing is writing about others' ideas using our own words, rather than quoting, rather than taking the exact words from those articles, and rather than follow the ideas, but I still have to give credit. Paraphrasing is not just copying and pasting and changing a few words. Do not copy and paste. Copying and pasting is not writing. If you are copying and pasting when you're writing a paper or an assignment, you're doing it wrong. Trust me, you're doing it wrong. We do not copy and paste when we're writing. Writing is writing. Writing is not copying and pasting. Okay? Think about if you wanted to break up with somebody and you're going to write them a heartfelt letter about all the reasons why you're breaking up with them. Would you find something on the internet and copy and paste it? You wouldn't, right? Because that would be very insincere. And if they caught you, they'd hate you even more than they already do for breaking up with them. Okay, so But you would express that in your own words, right? You would start by writing the old-fashioned way in your own words, in your own voice. So we're not going to copy and paste and change a few words around. We're not going to copy and paste several parts of different papers together and kind of stitch together a paper by copying and pasting other people's stuff and then changing a few words. Okay, that's not paraphrasing either. We're also not going to rewrite others' paragraphs one sentence at a time. Okay, you might think like, well, isn't that what we mean by paraphrasing? No. Okay, we're not just going to take somebody's sentence and reword it, and then take the next sentence, reword it, take the next sentence, reword it, take the next sentence, reword it, and so on. Okay, because you're not using their ideas then. All you're doing is just showing that you understand grammar, right? You know how to rephrase things. You have a good enough command of the English language that you can restate something in different words. And now we have paraphrasing tools to do it for us, so maybe you can't even do that. It doesn't tell your instructor that you understand and that you thought about the material, that you reflected on the material, and that you're providing your own interpretation or understanding of what you read. Okay, those are very different things. So again, we want to be sure that the work we're submitting for evaluation is an honest and accurate reflection of what we know and understand. And if all you're doing is rewording other people's sentences, that you're not doing that. Okay, and we're not going to paraphrase as a way to avoid acknowledging other people's the use of others' work. Okay, we want to always provide citation to the source to make sure that it's clear to others that we're using others' work. I want to go back to our friend Claudine Gator, former president of Harvard. This is a very brief summary of what she was accused of. So the documents by the main accuser, in links on his website, show 39 examples of the first complaint, rising to 47 in total. Separately, Harvard's investigations found instances of inadequate citation and in her dissertation and at least 2 of her research articles. She's not been accused of stealing big ideas, but rather copying language in the papers of other scholars with small changes to substitute words or phrases or arrange them differently. Doing that is enough to lose your job. Right? So think about that, right? Why? Why do we not allow somebody like this to keep her job? Right? Because she's not presenting anything new. She's just rearranging something old. Right? It's basically like a remix as opposed to the original song. Right? The remix is enjoyable, but the real credit goes to the person who wrote the song, that formed the song. Again, I can't say it enough. Copying and pasting is not right. Right? So if you're copying and pasting, you're doing it wrong. Do not copy and paste. I'm going to show you why. It's not okay to just copy and paste and change a few words here and there. Here is something that I wrote on the subject of river damming. Okay, I wrote this big long paragraph, large dam projects one of the greatest threats to lake and river biodiversity tropics, okay, wrote this big long paragraph about river damming, detriment and consequences of it, and I handed this in to an actual geology professor. And I asked her what she thought of it. And this is what she wrote. You have a very good understanding of the subject and covered all negative implications of river damming. The wording flows to the reader, well done. She would have given me a grade somewhere between 88 and 90% for that previous paragraph that you saw on the previous page. And boy, would I feel good about that, right? Except I don't know anything about river damming. I'm a psychologist. I don't know about geology. Nothing at all. So how did I do it? Well, how I did it was I took one of her papers. This is why she liked the writing, right? It's her paper. I took one of her papers. I copied the entire paragraph. And then I just went through, and anywhere where you see the kind of bluish color, I just changed the words. Okay? So I submitted, presumably, this beautiful passage that shows how much I understand about river damming when I don't understand a thing about river damming and its negative consequences. Not one thing. But what I do know is how to find synonyms for words, right? So here, I was able to take R and change that, or host and change it to R, and main and change it to greatest. She had aquatic biodiversity, I changed that to lake and river biodiversity. She had tropical rivers, I changed it to tropics. I did all that, I did all these changes, and this does not make it my paragraph. Okay, it's very clearly not my work. All right, so this is why just rearranging the words a little bit, you know, going sentence by sentence and just reworking doesn't show understanding. You're trying to convince your instructor to understand. That's your job as a student. You're convincing the instructor to understand the material. Is this convincing that I understand the material? Is anybody convinced that I understand anything about river damming? Not at all. Right? And you shouldn't be convinced, because I don't. All right, so I'm not going to do that. So what should you do instead? What I want you to do when you're using other people's work is read by the paragraph, not by the sentence. So read a whole paragraph and then think about what that paragraph is telling you. Write that down. Okay? Jot down a few key ideas as you're reading paragraphs. When you read a paragraph or two, after maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs, stop and think, what were the main ideas covered in those paragraphs? Okay. Make a list with the citation of the paper beside it. Because another thing I find students sometimes do is they do this first part, they can do the bullet points and they have some ideas about what the paper is saying, and then they forget where they got it from. They forget what paper comes from. So make sure that you stay organized and put the citation of the paper at the top of your page, and then your ideas underneath it, right? About what your list of bullet notes about what the paper means. Use bullets. Don't use complete sentences. Use little shorthand bullets, little code that only you understand. That's going to help you to avoid repeating the words that the original author used. Okay, so write from your own understanding, your interpretation. Once you've made all of your bullet points, put the original paper away. Put it out of sight. Close the PDF, take the paper, put it in a drawer, lock that drawer so you're not tempted to go take it out again. Okay? You're going to now start writing with the paper out of sight. All right, that's really important because if you have the paper in view, it's really tempting to just look over and go, actually, like the way you said that, I'm going to say that in a slightly different way. Which is not what we're trying to do here. And we're trying to show and convince yourself that you understand the material, you reflected on it, processed it, you engaged with it, and that you can write about it yourself. That you can write about it from your own understanding in a way that is accurate and shows your knowledge and tolerance. Once you got that list of bullets, start writing sentences from your bullet points. Okay? Make sure that you cite the source of the ideas, even though you're now using your own words because you're paraphrasing, you still have to provide a citation for the ideas, right? Still give credit for the ideas that are contained in your paper because they were taken from somebody else. Okay. The last step in my process is I then unlock the file drawer, pull up that paper, and I check to just make sure that I haven't lost the original intention that the author was trying to convey. That basically I'm fact checking my own work, right? Did I get it right? Does what I have written accurately capture the idea? That's it. Okay, I'm not going to go back and say, oh, actually, that sentence, that was real good. I'm going to, right? I'm going to do that. We're going to write our own stuff from our understanding with the paper out of view from our own notes. Okay, that's the process I want you to use when you're writing papers. So let's go through that. Okay, here's that same paragraph before, but this time instead of quoting from it, I want to paraphrase. So I'm going to read the whole thing, and I'm going to think about what it means, and I'm going to start making notes. So here's what I think are the main points that Penny Cooper writer is trying to make. There's problems with fact checking. You can't do it for every Instagram post or Facebook post. It takes forever, and even by the time that fact checking can take place, the misinformation contained in the original post is probably already spread like wildfire across social media. Okay. The fact checkers might be able to catch something that's just flat out false, but they're going to miss the more subtle misleading information. So even if we could find a way to efficiently fact check it, we probably can't on social media. The social media fact checkers are probably not going to be great, right? It's not going to catch everything. Okay, and I think the third point that they're trying to make was we need to also worry that if we flag some things, right? You see posts that got flagged like on Twitter or X, pardon me. You see posts that got flagged like, well, it's some of community standards, right? That readers have added context. But what do you think about the posts that aren't flagged? The posts that aren't flagged, you think, well, those are probably accurate because nobody's flagged them. Okay? So any system, what the point they're trying to make, not my idea, the point they're trying to make is that any system of flagging posts is potentially misleading or fake news. We have to keep in mind that it's got to work really, really well because anything that isn't flagged is now going to be assumed to be true. People are going to think, oh, it's not flagged as misinformation. It must be high quality information. Okay, so those are the three main points I took from that paragraph. Now I'm going to write my own. Okay, Pennycook and Rand 2021 have pointed out that rolling up fact checking on the time scale required to mitigate the sharing of misinformation on social media is simply not feasible. It goes on forever. Okay, but it is written around those three bullet points. Okay, I've captured the same ideas in my own voice from my own understanding. This that you see on the screen was written by me, for real this time. It was actually written by me, based on what I understood. And does it sound as good as the original authors? No, because this is their area, they're experts, I'm not. Okay, but it's mine, right? And I understand the work, and if anybody says, like, Chris, what did you mean by the sentence that Pennycook and Rand emphasized may not even matter because fact checkers probably agree that I can answer that because I wrote it. Okay, I wrote it with my understanding. Okay, so one of the things that I've done to cue the reader that these are not my ideas is I've used what we call signal words throughout my passage. I started off by saying Pennycook and Rand 2021 have pointed out that. You know that anything that follows now is going to be their ideas and not mine. I've written first, as these authors know. Again, I'm not saying as Chris thinks, I'm saying as these authors know. Okay, so I'm very clearly every time making sure to the reader that for everything they read, they know whose idea it really is. Right? I again reiterate this Pennycook and Rand, and I say again, the authors argue that. Okay, so I'm writing in a way that makes it very clear to the reader who should get credit for these ideas. All right? I'm using signal words, the combination of signal words, and of course, the citations to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do my little check. Is it clear to whom these words and ideas belong? What do you think? Have I made it clear who should get credit for the ideas and words in my passage? Yeah. I think so too. Those signal words were pretty clear, right? Pennycook and Rand, the authors think that. Okay, so my use of signal words clearly indicates to the reader that these ideas do not belong to me. Am I being respectful to them? Yeah, I paid them, right? I paid them with a citation. That's going to build their reputation. Okay, lots of people cite Lord Pennycook. He's from here, was from here in U of R. He's now at Cornell University. And he has a stellar reputation as a researcher in this field, but he got it because a lot of people thought his work was good and cited it in their own work. The more that he gets cited, the more his reputation builds as an expert in this area. Okay, so it's really important to do that. Give him the credit he deserves for his ideas and his colleagues. Am I honestly and accurately representing what I'm capable of doing in that passage that I showed you? Yeah, because I wrote it, right? So I wrote it and I made clear which ideas are mine, which are not. And in that case, none of the ideas are mine. So I made that very clear to the reader. I didn't take credit for any of those ideas, but I also showed that I had understanding because I wrote in my own words. So now I think an instructor who read that would say, yeah, you actually seem to understand what the point of that article was. You seem to capture the ideas well. You seem to understand. Okay. Had I just copied and pasted and changed a few words, I wouldn't show my instructor that I understood. Had I just switched around the order of the sentences and changed a few words, I still wouldn't be showing the instructor that I understood because anybody can do that. As I showed you in the geology example, my daughter's 11, she can do that. She can switch around words and find new words. It doesn't mean she understands the subject matter at all. Okay, so I wrote my own voice and it shows, I know it's not as good as what Penny Rand, but that's okay, they're the experts. They should be better than me. Okay, this is an honest and accurate representation of how I understand this as a reader of work, consumer of work. Okay, went through a lot and I tried to do a little bit quickly because I know we're way over time. Academic integrity is important. I hope I've convinced you of that. I hope I've given you some good reasons to just want to do the right thing, not just because it's a big punishment if you don't, but because it's how we engage with each other as academics in an honest and transparent way. We ensure everybody gets credit for their ideas and their words, and that everybody's happy. Okay? Everyone has a role of ensuring the integrity of the work. You do as a student, I do as an associate dean, I do as a professor for my students. I have to go through what it means to paraphrase and to cite properly and so on with my own students to make sure that they do that. It's my responsibility, but it's the student's responsibility to know. Okay, so it's your responsibility to know the rules and stick by them. If you don't know them, ask. Okay, when you're unsure, ask. You can show your instructor, you can say, am I doing this right? Okay, I don't want to get in trouble. Does this look like what, and have I referenced this source properly? So on. I've already said it a million times, to say it once more. Academic integrity is about honesty and respect. And where those two things meet in the academic sphere is academic integrity. When you cite, make sure you cite your sources anytime you're quoting from other people's work or paraphrasing other people's work. Okay, paraphrasing from bullets like I showed you. Never leave any doubt to the reader about which ideas and words are yours and which come from some other source. And then tell us what that source is. Okay, it should, every single sentence in your paper, it should be very clear if that's your idea or somebody else's. Everyone, every sentence. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a citation at the end of every single sentence, because as I showed you, you can capture that by saying things like, these authors also note, these researchers go on to say, etc. Okay. If you're going to use any kind of writing assistance, even Grammarly, ask for permission first. Check with your instructor, make sure that they know that you're intending to do this and that the way you intend to use the tool is okay. Don't try it out and see what happens. That doesn't end well for a lot of students. Most importantly, copying and pasting is writing. Copying and pasting at any point while writing a paper, you are not writing a paper. Okay? And just only writing a paper. So do not copy and paste, change around words. It doesn't matter. It's still copying and pasting. You're not actually expressing the idea from your own understanding, which is what the instructor wants to see. Okay? I've got a little citation here, or a little reference here to a source that many people find helpful for it captures various citation styles. APA is one that I used for my presentation. That's the American Psychological Association standard for citing and for referencing works. And your discipline might be different, so you want to pay attention to what the connection is in your discipline. A lot of social scientists use APA, but there's others as well. Our Purdue is a great website. It's free. You can access all the information about all the different ways of appropriately acknowledging other people's work. So you can just Google OWL Purdue, two different words, OWL Purdue, and it'll come up right away. Okay, if you don't want to write all this down. Okay. That is the end of the presentation. I'm happy to take questions. I'm happy to offer clarification. I'm sticking around. I know some of you have to go. If you have to go, don't feel bad about that. Thank you so much for coming into this session. I really appreciate you taking the time to invest in your own education by learning about academic integrity. Question?
I have one opinion question based on the lecture and the textbook on. I have been researching internet. What will happen if my opinion or my words or my sentence somehow match with someone's journal internet?
So I get this question a lot for those online. The question is, what happens if it just so happens that the opinions that I have can be found online, or if the words that I have can be found online? But you will always be applying a reasonable standard here, right? When an opinion is very common, popular, whatever else, if we see that others share that opinion, that's not going to be a surprise to us, right? What we're looking to see is that you have made an attempt to be original, right? And so when we can find all, like, let's say you express 12 different opinions and all 12 of those same opinions are captured in one other person's work, that's going to be a problem, right? But just having overlap is not going to be a problem per se. The second thing I'll say, you're not going to write the same words as somebody else by chance. If you do, it'll be a very, very small number of words, and we don't care about that. That's not what we're getting at, right? Because that's going to happen, you know, if the shorter the sentence is, the more likely it is that it already appears in some other work. It will be very apparent to the instructor when you're providing your own words and your own ideas, and when you're borrowing from others without proper attribution. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, don't worry about that. If you go it yourself, there's going to be no problem. Okay, if it's your opinion and someone else happens to share that opinion, that is not a problem, and it's not going to get you in trouble. Okay. All right, back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for providing insightful presentation. I know that many of the times, the assignment given, and probably have been given previous semesters, there are chances that the answers might be very, the thought process might be similar to some other people's work. Are there software or applications that the university provides for us to be able to know this work is very similar to what some I know, for example, from school that I was in school I attended, have something like 20 things. So you're able to see that, oh, yes, this idea is mine. I have textbooks, I have quoted them, but for whatever reason, it is 40% or 50% similar to somebody's idea. You know, when you, I mean, as a professor, you must have seen many of these assignments look similar. As authentic and as genuine as it appears, there should be a way the students should be able to know that this is too similar to the same person. It is very, very true. Are there provisions that we're able to know? I know my leader, one of the people that attended are able to look at find and then
Very good question. For those on Zoom, the question is, does the university provide any kind of tool or resource for allowing you to measure the similarity of your work to others' work? And if so, what is that tool and how does it work? I'm just gonna first say, if you're writing your own answers, even though you might hit on like, a very short answer might be very similar to somebody else's, we're looking at the totality of the assignment. If every single one of your answers is found in somebody else's paper, that's going to be a problem, right? But just happening to stumble on, your class know the difference. They know when an answer is, 7 words long, that a lot of students are going to give the same answer. It's probably going to be right from the textbook, okay? That's a very different thing than when you're asked to reflect on something or write code, where now the chance that it's going to be identical for somebody else's by chance is very slim. Okay, so in terms of similarity, we do have Turnitin at the university. It's up to the individual instructors to decide whether they want to use Turnitin in their courses, and it's also up to the individual instructors to decide whether they want to make that visible to you, so that you can see how similar your work is to the work of other students and to other sources on the internet and so on. If you wrote your answers yourself, if you wrote your paper yourself, if you're writing in your own voice of your honest opinions and reflections and so on, it's not going to matter what that similarity score is. Okay, so I often get students will ask, how high is too high for the similarity score? Ranges from 0 to 100. How high can it be without getting in trouble? There is no answer to that question at all. And here's why. I have seen papers that have 40% similarity score that in no way indicate academic misconduct when I look at them carefully. And Turnitin lets me look at them carefully because it highlights where the overlap is and shows me the source that it came from. And that can happen because people are using very common ideas, things that, maybe specific methodologies, specific theories that tend to use the same language over and over again. And we can tell when we look at it that this is a hodgepodge of just random things that just happen to overlap, and that in its totality, there's a lot of overlap with other sources. What that looks like, we call that the rainbow. Okay? Because each source gets its own highlight color on the Turnitin report. And when we see a rainbow, that means there's a lot of overlap because there's a lot of sources that the person has consulted, and that's fine. Okay? What we're worried about is the block. Okay? The block means that we're actually only seeing one color a lot of times, and we're seeing that color a lot. There's a lot being taken from one source, and there's a lot of similarity and overlap. Okay, and so I've seen students that have had plagiarized papers that came back with similarity score as low as 4%. How did that happen? How it happened was they copy, paste, change words, keep changing words, change words, and the paper, first of all, looks ridiculous, right? Because the words are changed in ways that often don't make any sense. They're just finding synonyms for any word they can. Okay, but it's that problem I went through earlier with the geology example, right? That I don't actually understand, and now I am just copying and pasting stuff I found on the internet and changing it around in the hopes that nobody will be able to detect that. That shows up like it's easy to detect with Turnitin. Okay, it looks exactly what it looks like. a big highlighted wall of text with little unhighlighted areas sprinkled throughout. Okay, so you can have a very low similarity score and it's still plagiarism. You can have a very high similarity score, it's not plagiarism, but all instructors can't just look at the number. They have to look at what it actually got flagged in the report, and then they can make a determination of whether they suspect misconduct. It's very much a judgment call, but instructors are very rarely wrong. I have had maybe one or two instructors that have said, I think there's plagiarism here, and I come back and said, I don't think there is. Okay, when they say there's plagiarism, there's plagiarism. So it's not really ambiguous, even though it might seem like it is, okay? I don't want you focusing on turn it in score. I have had students that said, you know, the way that I approached the assignment was I copied and pasted from the internet, and then I literally just went through and changed words until I got similarity score down below what the professor said in class. That's still copy and paste, guys. That's still plagiarism. Okay? Just changing around things until it, you know, the score drops. It doesn't change the original act, which was copy and paste. It doesn't show any understanding of what you know. Okay, so as long as you're writing for yourself, you will not fall into this trap. Great question. I really like that question. I kind of want to include your presentation, but other questions?
Is presentation fee available?
Yes. Yes. You're gonna help me get sunlight?
Yeah,
Yes,
but
yes.
you find the same exercise in GRST.
Yeah, do your GRST and AA. A lot of the same types of things are in there.
Yeah, and some exercise are worth like paying attention. So
He's a graduate student. Listen to him. He knows. He's got a GRST and AA. Yeah, I made it harder this summer, so it's harder now.
Please, guys, avoid plagiarism at all costs. You won't just hurt yourself. You can hurt your teammates or groups. For example, my friend couldn't work with me in group project. So
yeah, that's a great point.
Please.
Group work is especially difficult because someone who didn't attend this workshop may contribute work to the group project that's plagiarized. And then becomes a mess for me to sort out, figure out who's gonna get punched and who's not. Okay, you can help me out and yourself, save yourself a lot of hassle by checking other students' work. Okay, if it looks like it's too good to have been written by that student based on what you know about how that student communicates, ask them why it's so good. Right? Say, you know, the writing here is really, really good. I saw the email you sent previously, writing wasn't as good. How did you get it this good? Right? And if they say, hey, well, ChatGPT wrote that, of course, then you can say, hey, that's not allowed, get that out of our group assignment, or we're all gonna get in trouble. Okay? Group work is tricky. Other questions? Yes. Oh,
Okay, I know. So my first question is, how do we know which citation system we need to use? For example, back in the country, it was very popular APA. I don't know. Now I'm in business, so I don't know which citation system you're using. And I forgot the second one.
so that's your first question. Why do you use second? Yeah, your business you use APA. But it's really the instructor will tell you in their course syllabus which citation style they're expecting you to use. Social sciences APA here at the University of Regina is very common. And even some of the other areas, some of the sciences and so on. And it was kind of what I was saying before, you know, if you know APA and go ahead and use APA, even if APA is at the right citation style, that's still not academic misconduct, right? That's just gonna get you a note saying, use this other style, we don't use this in history.
Yeah, my second question is about if they're in a workshop to be more engaged with APA, you know, just like go over to all the rules, because sometimes it's like a pain in the neck and
It is.
memorize them, learn by heart. So
That's a great question. We do have workshops at the university offered primarily through the library. But watch the grad digest, which you can find in Grad Drive Plus, but the grad digest, that newsletter that we send out every month, yes, every month we'll have any workshops that are available, and there are definitely workshops in BPA. Each Thursday, you can attend those as well, even though you maybe aren't working on basis, get questions what APA and answer those.
that's my last question is like, this is like this kind of workshop has like a theoretical part as well as a hands-on part, or just theoretical? Well, this is like a
There's a little bit more of a hands-on part in the Grad 5 Plus. That it's largely theoretical simply because of the size of the people we're dealing with. Doesn't like to do much beyond that. So, good question. Oh, yes, sorry, thank you very much.
Mine's the simple question. I want to find out, and then right and aside from one of the tools and ID, I don't remember the ID research is.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, what if you're in an exam and it's a closed book exam and you don't have access to the original materials, but you want to bring in an idea from something that you read? I would say exactly like that. I would say, I remember reading a paper, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which paper, but here's the idea. Because you're in an exam and you're going to get a break. Right? The instructor is going to say, well, yeah, it's not an open book exam, so unless you have like a super memory, right, you're not going to remember the citation necessarily. So you just do the best you can to give credit. Yeah, great question. Any other questions? Right, well, I'm worried we're gonna get kicked out of this room because we're over time, so I think I'll end it there. You can reach me, anybody that works at the university has as their email address, their first name dot last name @uregina.ca. That's a little hint for you. They work here for staff, it's not true for students, unfortunately, but for staff or faculty, if they're employed at the university, they have a first name dot last name. So my name is Chris.Oriet, Oriet. You can reach me anytime. It's Chris.Oriet@uregina.ca if you have questions about academic integrity and how to avoid academic misconduct. Thanks for coming again. Thank you, Zoom people. You have questions about their data as well. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Close the Zoom.
That's the one.